All right, just click the button to go live. We have six members of the committee. Right now, we've got two attendees who have joined us, and we are gaining a few more here. Just a moment. We've got a total of four. Great. So we've got five, six. All right. All right, so we've got seven members of the community. I think that we're gonna have a few more joining as we get started here, eight. Um, let's do this. I am calling the December meeting of the ANC 1B Economic Development Committee to order. It is 7:07 p.m. We'll start with our roll call. Howard Kurtzman,
Present.
Frank Chauvin,
Present.
Krishna Kumar,
Present.
Tanya Shand,
Present.
Ian Hawksworth,
Present.
David Martin, not present. Karen Gall, not present. She is leading the 3D CAC meeting tonight. We have an overlap in meetings, but we do have six of our eight members, and Matt Fay is here as well. So we have six of our eight members, so we do have a quorum. Let me start with a couple of kind of old business updates. Krishna and I are in regular contact with DemPed. I just spare the rest of you from the emails, but I share things that are updates that we get. Daniel Lyons emailed us this evening to say that the zoning work for 1617U and 1620 V Street is taking longer still. Didn't provide, I didn't ask for any particular rationale as to that. It sounds like at this point that process will be ongoing into March and April. And so he is looking to get a zoning update to us in April, May. So I know that there are some folks in the audience that are paying attention to 1617 U Street. And so you have that update as well from DemPed's office. I need to reach out to DemPed about Rita Bright. That has been a question of the community that Commissioner Trindade Duramo represents. And so I committed that I would follow up with DemPed to get an update on Rita Bright. And so hope to have an answer to this group as well when we come back again in January. Krishna.
Yeah, and just on Rita Bright, the developer is also Daniel Lyon.
Oh, you're right. It is. I was thinking, thank you for that, because I was going to actually email his colleague who's doing Reeve Center and had that wrong. So thank you for the clarification. I appreciate
Yeah,
that.
and same thing. There are some zoning related things that he was saying that would be delayed. We talked to him last time, I believe, in early spring, late summer on Rita Bright, just for the record.
Yep. And yeah, and you're right. He did give us an update saying that there were some zoning process challenges there as well. The Office of Planning is intending to join us at our February meeting to give a presentation on the Comp Plan 2050. My intention is to ask them to provide some specific updates. So any one of us could go to one of their public meetings and hear the public presentation. I'm looking for them to come prepared to talk a little bit more precisely. Two different layers of precision that I'm looking for. The first thing I'm looking for is data. So they talk a lot, and appropriately, they should talk a lot about the underlying data, projected population growth, demographic, et cetera. I would like for them to talk about the assumptions that they are building into their Comp Plan 2050 work so that we can hear a little bit more about what is the foundation of that work. And then the second thing that I'm looking for precision around is how they are thinking about addressing the area that is our ANC 1B. In the past, it's been addressed either as the Mid-City Plan or as the Duke District. My understanding is that they are working through kind of what framework they're going to use. I honestly don't believe that that is an evasive answer. I think they are really kind of grappling with what's the right way to talk about these different areas. And so I would like for them to be able to share their thinking with us. And I'd also like for us to be able to be prepared to share our thoughts about our area. But I will be reaching out to the committee after the new year to get your input on specific either questions, data points, discussion topics we'd like OP to come prepared to share with us. And then again, we'll have our January meeting before we meet with OP in February. The last update is just that I had a productive conversation with the Business Improvement District leadership. They continue to work and to make progress on that. It is taking longer than they would like it to, but they have also not communicated any kind of major hurdles. What they've said is it's just a lot of work, and they feel like they have gotten the right level of engagement from kind of key folks on the corridor who are helping to fund the kind of the initial work that needs to be done to lay the foundations. They are making progress in terms of setting up the actual bid corporation, bylaws, leadership, board structure, et cetera. They've got a lot of work to do still in terms of all of the work that needs to be done, identifying each and every parcel, tax parcel that will be included, the value of that parcel, the calculation of the actual bid assessment, et cetera. So when we spoke, it sounds like first off, they're definitely not going to get an application in by the end of December, which means that they will not be able to get their first draw from the taxation in March. They're more likely to get their application in March of this year, and then get their first draw from the tax revenues in the fall. And there's only two dates that you get or that those tax revenues get paid out to bids. One is in the spring in March, one is in the fall in September. And so that's essentially where they're tracking right now. But we expect that they will be back to present to us either in January or in February. And again, that'll be one of my updates to this group via email as we come back from the holidays and start the new year. Any questions about those updates before we turn to our primary discussion topic on the gentle density resolution? Okay, hearing none, we will pivot. So we have a resolution that this group was presented in November. It was presented in part by me as the chair of the committee, in part by Commissioner Barrio, who is the author and champion of the resolution inside of ANC 1B. And this group had an opportunity to provide some feedback and some input on it. I think we provided feedback and input both in terms of the bigger picture concepts. We presented and discussed feedback related to our role in this type of policy position, and we talked about some specific edits. Commissioner Barrio did edit and revise that document. I've shared that with this group, and I will take us through a red line here as we get our conversation started so that we can see the specific edits. Bigger picture concept, the big change was that rather than focusing on gentle touch, both around single family and kind of the RF1 zone, which would be kind of townhouses, with a focus on being able to subdivide lots and to create multiple townhomes and taking townhouses and by right converting them into up to 6 apartments. The language was revised really to focus primarily on the subdivision of single family parcels and converting those primarily into townhouses, while there is still some additional language that we'll talk about that talks about both townhouses and multifamily. But the big shift there was really primarily around a focus on single family. As I shared earlier today in an email to the committee members, a member of the community raised a concern that a research organization, think tank, lobbying group, pick whatever term you think kind of describes that neutrally, authored a very similar paper around gentle density and described their efforts to advocate for gentle density to be a part of the comp plan pillars for the comp plan 2050. The group that authored that paper is the American Enterprise Institute, otherwise known as AEI. They also, in addition to publishing their article on November 18th, wrote or kind of just carried forward the same principles, same concepts into a piece that they published in Greater Washington on November 19th. And so, there is a fair amount of kind of big organization focus behind the gentle density concept. The individual that raised a concern identified that Commissioner Barrio is employed by AEI, and also had a role in the research that led to the policy paper that was released by AEI. I want to clarify to not just this group of committee members, as I'd communicated to you, but also to the members of the public, that Commissioner Barrio had in fact identified to the commission that he was an employee of AEI. He shared in the month of November that he had had a role in doing that research, and further shared that this was something that he was championing out of his own personal interests and not at the request of or direction of his employer. The particular concern was forwarded to district government and was investigated by BEGA, which is the ethics group of DC government. And so I just want to lay that out there as background. This is, as we will talk about here in a moment, these are big policy concepts. And whenever you get to big policy concepts, you get big guns that are talking about big policy concepts because they have potential for big impact. So what I'd like to do is to kind of turn our discussion today to the revised resolution. I'm going to put it up here on the screen in just a moment. And I know that there are a number of different directions that we could go. To keep us focused right now, my understanding is that the commission is intending to put the revised resolution that we're going to look at today back in front of the commission for its consideration at the January 8th meeting. And so this will be important for us to communicate any questions, any suggested edits, any concerns that we have broadly or specifically. And so my goal today is to be as efficient as we can, but also to give the space that we need to be able to have a conversation about this resolution, the concepts that are kind of carried in it, and the role of the ANC in that as we move forward. With that said, Mr. Kurtzman, go ahead.
Or I think it's important before we talk about the text of the resolution to explore further the concerns about conflict of interest. And I know different people may have different concepts of what conflict of interest amounts to. I'll just tell you what my experience in the working world over the years has been. That when you talk about the interests in a conflict of interest, you're not talking about what somebody says their beliefs and goals are. Those are kind of internal psychological things that nobody really knows for sure what's going on. Rather, what you talk about are the actual actions and behaviors that someone has taken, and the affiliations they have with other people and organizations. So there is, in my opinion, a clear conflict of interest here. Now, a conflict of interest is not necessarily a bad thing. People who are active in the community in various ways are going to have conflicts of interest. The issue becomes, how do you manage it? And what's important is that these conflicts be disclosed to all relevant parties, and that they be managed in any other way, such that the other organizations or other points of view don't have an undue or inappropriate influence on the decision-making process. I'm pleased to hear that Commissioner Barrio shared with the commissioners that he's employed by AEI, but he did not share that with this committee. And we had a lengthy discussion about this resolution, the earlier version of the resolution, at our November meeting. He was at the meeting, and to my recollection, he never once raised this or informed us of it. So that raises all sorts of questions. Probably there's no serious issue here, but there might be. And I'd be concerned that if the commission approves this resolution, they are putting at risk their integrity and their reputation, because we really don't know what else is happening with respect to AEI and any other players, and how the ANC's name and impact will be kind of used or perceived to be used for some larger end that it's not even familiar with now.
That's
So
exactly right.
yeah, so this is very problematic, and I do have some concerns about the text, but I think that if the ANC wants to address gentle density, that's fine, but not through this vehicle. It should find some other way of addressing it. That's my opinion.
No, I think that's very appropriate. I will share one comment, which is our committee meeting, November committee meeting was on the 20th. The publication that came out from AEI was on the 18th. The follow-on piece from Greater Washington was on the 19th. I personally, for whatever it's worth, was not aware that AEI had a research piece on gentle density until 2 days before the commission meeting. And so I was appreciative of being able to see that AEI piece with the same or similar name as the resolution, to be able to have that in my mind as I thought about the particular resolution. So Howard, I appreciate you raising that. I think those are excellent points. I know Tanya's going to make a comment, but Krishna, you have your hand up, and then I'll go to Tanya next.
Yeah, just Commissioner Fay, I just want some clarity here. At the last full ANC meeting, did the commission have a chance to look at any of the substance of the resolution, or was that discussion precluded by this conflict of interest stuff?
Yeah, it was precluded by the conflict of interest.
Okay.
Again, in kind of full transparency, because it's the only way you do things.
Okay.
The individual who raised the concern about the conflict of interest copied all of the commissioners, and so going into that meeting, the
Okay.
commissioners were aware of the concerns that had been raised. There was a statement by the chair early on in the in the commission meeting, stating that that particular resolution would be pulled from the agenda and would be postponed pending some additional reviews.
Okay.
The commissioners were aware that concern had been raised.
And then the other question then is you have helpfully provided the committee 3 copies of the resolution, which are labeled version 4, version 5, and then you provided, I think, a red line of the differences between 4 and 5. And 4 is what went up to the committee, up to the full ANC. And in terms of 5, and
Nope,
I
sorry. Just to clarify, version 4 was what was presented to our committee in
yes,
November. Version
okay,
5 is what was to have been presented to the commission in December. And version 5 reflects the changes that Commissioner Barrio made after our committee meeting feedback in November.
okay. And so there's been no further revisions really since then.
Nope. There's been no further revisions. There have been no further meetings on this topic. This meeting tonight is the commission's
Got it.
first kind of engagement around this document again.
Yeah, I have some comments on the conflict of interest as well, but I'll maybe save them for later and let some other people talk since I'm hogging some time here.
You're not, but we'll go to Tanya here in a moment, and then back to Howard. Unless Howard, you had a specific comment on what I just said.
Well, yeah, I left our November meeting, this committee's November meeting, thinking that we were going to get to review a revised version prior to the commission considering it. But actually, it was ready to go for the commission to consider it December. Do I have that wrong?
Well, let me kind of try to thread that needle. This committee requested of Commissioner Barrio that he bring back a revised version of the resolution to our December meeting, and to present it to the commission in January after we'd had a chance to review it. And if you recall, Commissioner Barrio said that he intended to present it at December without further review from this committee. This committee then chose, and it was actually your urging, which I think was appropriate. This committee chose then to vote on version 4 so that there would be a vote taken and in place on the record. And this committee voted uh, against version 4, so that the committee's position was known on that version, unchanged, going to the commission.
That's right. Okay, thank you.
Ms. Shand, sorry. Thank you for
Yes.
being
Well,
patient.
no worries. Howard said it so perfectly. I can't really expound on that anymore, other than to say we all live in DC. We all know about politics, and we all know that why folks seek ANC support is so that they can then tout that support when they're trying to move or navigate whatever they're trying to move or navigate. And so I agree with Howard that it's problematic, given the circumstances, that we take up this resolution. And if you recall, when I asked, how do you pronounce his last name?
Barrio?
Barrio, why he hadn't brought it up to WNA, which is a big chunk of his constituency, he said that when he took an oath, he took it as a representative of the city and of his constituents. I have been on this committee a long time, and I do not recall a time we have ever taken up a resolution that did not impact the ANC, which is what they said this would not do because we already have high density, so it would not impact us. So if we want to set a precedent, that's fine. But that should not be the guise under why we do this, because we have not, under my recollection, taken up a resolution that literally had no impact on us, on this ANC, but had impact citywide.
Yeah, and let me just kind of parse a little bit of what you said, where you said if I think you kind of said if I individually want to. Let me clarify. My goal tonight, I have two goals. One is a committee goal and one is a personal goal. My committee goal is that this committee, which I think is a very thoughtful, well-informed committee that has spent a lot of time advocating for the ANC 1B community, that the voice of this committee and the folks who are attending in the community is well represented to the commission. My goal, my first priority is that I want to make sure that whatever the commission does, it is doing it appropriately and it is not creating issues for itself down the road. And so your concerns about advancing a resolution that does not directly impact the ANC area or advancing a resolution that may have questions of conflict of interest, those are things that I take seriously because I want the commission always to be on the up. And so my goal tonight is to make sure that we have the space, that we've got the time, that the concerns that are raised are, raised, captured, and that I am then feeding those back. And so far, I think you are all raising the concerns that are appropriate. I'm going to propose a basic framework. So I think there's three layers that we could discuss this resolution on. Layer one is the real or perceived conflict of interest, and I'm going to say that kind of with some deference, but also saying to Howard, I heard exactly what you said, and my definition is the same. Um, the second layer that we can approach this is on the layer of principle, where we say if someone other than Commissioner Barrio had presented this, and to be candid, there may be another member of, or not candid, to be pragmatic, there may be another member of the commission who says, if Commissioner Barrio doesn't champion this, I, as a commissioner, will champion it. And so I want to do some justice to feedback on the principle of the resolution itself. If it was not Commissioner Barrio, would we still have questions or concerns or areas of support? And then the third layer we can tackle this is if there are particular kind of elements of text or specific details or specific concepts that we would like to give feedback on, we can do that. And again, with my fairly pragmatic hat on, I'm going to say there will be likely interest. I don't know what level of interest, but interest on the part of the commission in taking this up, at least for discussion, and I would like them to have the benefit of this group's thinking and wisdom conveyed. So that's kind of the framework that I got in my head. And if folks have different framework, I'm happy to kind of engage. But I think at this point, if there are no further comments about the conflict of interest, I will say that the author of the primary author of the AEI paper also resides in ANC 1B. And so you've got a couple of different folks who are specifically focused on this who do live in the commission area. And that may be the reason that it's being brought to ANC 1B first, just because of proximity. Krishna.
Sorry, guys. Just on the conflict of interest, um, I think I do have a slightly different view than Howard and Tanya. Uh, Probably because I had a conversation with Commissioner Barrio over the summer where he explained he had worked for AEI, and this was not a surprise to me. I also would like to clarify that AEI, even though they are part of the Agency of Darknesses out there, um, is a think tank. They are not a lobbying organization. If anything, I'm more concerned about the conflict with Greater Washington, which is a 501(c)(4) and is exclusively dedicated to lobbying and trying to move things, which has also been a key part of this resolution. I just want to lay those out there as sort of data points for us to think. I'm not trying to move anyone's position on this. Um, and the other thing is, I'm having a little. Nope, that's my fault. I'm sorry. I'll shut up now.
Good enough. All right, perfect. Thanks, Krishna. Any other comments on? I think we've explored the conflict of interest question. I'm happy to come back to it, but I'd also like us to be able to spend some time on the concept itself. Uh, in my head, and maybe I'm just trying to kind of spread this broadly enough. In my head, there's two kind of elements of the concept. Krishna, I'll come to you in 1 second. One element of the concept is the idea of gentle density or light touch density. So I think it's worth talking about the concept, talking about the things that we think are positive, the things that are of concern, make sure that we're kind of getting our kind of thoughts out there. The second is something that Tanya raised last time, and that is the role of ANC 1B in a policy statement that does not directly impact ANC 1B. I think both of those are reasonable to explore as we talk about the concept of the resolution itself. And then once we've spent some time talking about that, I suspect there will be members of the community that want to also share their perspectives and comments and research. Then we'll turn to any specific text elements that we want to explore. Krishna, go ahead.
Collecting my thoughts here. I talked previously just on the conflict of interest thing. I just wanted to say something else on the sort of what I would call regular order issue. And what I mean by that is, for all of us on the committee, what we have always been used to is the resolutions come up through the committees and we forward them on to the full ANC for approval. And that is sort of, if you look at parliamentary procedures, regular order. It's coming up through the committee to be voted on the whole. And that is how this ANC has been run for any number of years. I can't really speak to other ANCs, but the model is widely followed in DC. That is not to say that ANC commissioners can't do things on their own. And this is to a degree what is happening here, where one commissioner has taken it on his own and sort of bringing it around. He is asking us for our opinions, but bringing it up directly to the commission. And he can do that. He's the one who was voted in and was elected. So he's bypassing the regular order, but that is not necessarily the cardinal sin here is what I would try to describe it as. I'm not happy about it, but he's certainly entitled to do that, and other commissioners have done that in the past where they just bring items up directly to the commission rather than trying to bring it up through the committee. So I'm just trying to frame that a little bit, and so we can, going forward, just how we think about it.
Yeah, it's definitely been precedent. Again, just for transparency's sake, I believe, and Frank, you're on the ZPD committee. I believe that Commissioner Barrio brought this to the ZPD committee in August, again in September. I think that there was I think it finally made its way to, I think he brought it very, very briefly to our committee, Economic Development, in October, and then he presented a draft of it in November. I moved in the November meeting to table it with a request that we actually spend, you know, some substantive time on it in the Economic Development Committee, which is what we did in November. So I know there has been a lot of engagement around this. Whether all that engagement has shaped the resolution consistent with the different committees' perspectives or not, I cannot speak to that. I don't know how all of that feedback has effectively translated into edits. My guess is that if I had given Howard Kurtzman the pen after the November meeting, more edits would have been made to reflect the conversation of the committee. And so again, we're following a process, and again, my goal is to make sure that the perspective of this committee is made very, very clear and transparent to the commissioners as this goes forward. All right, let's talk about concept. And folks in the audience, feel free to raise hands where and when you'd like to raise questions or make statements. Let me start maybe with just kind of what has changed, so that we've got the document clearer in our heads. I am going to share. Give me 1 second. I have way too many documents open, but this one is at the top. Great. We'll ask for a little bit of forgiveness in doing the red line. I think the fonts were slightly different, so I apologize, and please feel free to ignore all of these formatting notes that are over in the side, and I will do my best to move through this efficiently. We've got a couple of whereas clauses up in the top that we've talked about before. These are related to acute housing shortages, displacement, the idea of single-family detached homes, that the zoning that focuses on detached homes, using the word exclusionary, uh, uh, reduces the supply of housing and drives up home prices. Exclusionary zoning perpetuates racial and economic segregation. Comp plan guides the use density. So pivoting now to the comp plan and saying these are the issues. Comp plan is the way that we get at this. OP is the author of the comp plan. This is a kind of a once in a kind of generational opportunity. They only rewrite this every 20 years. So kind of creating the urgency for making a change. Recent poll that district residents want to end exclusionary zoning. 63% of those residents who were surveyed favor fourplexes on areas that are zoned for single-family homes. Density being introduced in a gradual manner. One of the things that you're probably noticing is that there are no red lines here. The only red lines are kind of the elimination of the footnotes, which is a result of how that went into the next draft in the agenda. So we don't really have any kind of real changes made up to this point from the document we reviewed previously. Extensive evidence that new housing lowers rents and makes housing more affordable. Research shows that legalizing by right infill of existing structures could produce approximately 1,000 family-sized starter homes per year. Single-family homes are essential for young families. And now we get to the therefore be it resolved. And so this is where this is the thing that is essentially being proposed by the resolution. The background is just preamble, and we should discuss it. I say that about every resolution, even the ones I write. It's just preamble. It's laying the foundation. It is meant to be kind of a factual statement of what is that builds the case for what you are proposing and what you're asking for. We pivot then with the therefore be it resolved. This is now what we're asking for. Request that the comp plan support by right gentle density throughout the District of Columbia to increase housing production by including the following principles. Um, this is where we get to our red line changes. Infill conversion of single family detached structures to row homes. That's where my share thing gets in the way. To row homes, townhomes, and small homes are an essential source of new family sized. Houses should be allowed by right throughout the district. Infill, this is where we remove reference to multiplex. Infill conversion of single family detached structures to multiplexes up to 6 units should be allowed by right in residential zones. In planning areas that, unlike Mid-City, where ANC 1B is located, have not met their affordable housing targets. Housing targets should be regularly updated in the coming years. Reference to ADUs, floor area ratios, setbacks, height regulations should be aligned with the realistic needs of infill conversion, ensuring that zoning standards do not unintentionally prevent viable projects. Um, sorry, projects that add new housing while respecting the scale of surrounding blocks. Not much else changes. I do want to kind of read these, but I also want to make sure we're spending time. So Howard, to your kind of question, and I think it was maybe a comment you said, I don't see much changed from the version we reviewed in November to where we are today. And I would say that the red line bears that out. The red line bears that out. There's not a lot of changes from version 4 that we reviewed in November to the version 5 that we've got today. So
Could you also clarify, will there be footnotes? Are there supposed to be footnotes here or not? I'm not clear.
there are supposed to be footnotes. And
Okay.
I know members of the audience have comments on those footnotes, but the footnotes are intended to be a part of the resolution. Um, and uh, and look, I mean, let me make my first statement on this, which is if the ANC were to pass this resolution as it is written today, my belief is that the ANC is endorsing as fact all of the statements in the whereas clauses. And the commission needs to be willing to go on the record as saying that they have done their own due diligence and that they are willing to endorse all of those whereas clauses as fact. I do not know at this point whether folks have done that research. Again, I'll make one statement, which is as I looked at the zoning map of the District of Columbia and as I looked at AEI's paper that they published on the 18th of November, one of the things that I see is that there is a lot of single family zoning on the corners of the city, which is frankly exactly where you'd expect to see it, furthest from the urban core. And what that means practically is that there is a lot of single family housing zoned in the far northwest. There is a lot of single family housing zoned in the far northeast. There is a lot of single family housing zoned in the far southeast. And I'm not sure that the demographics of the far northwest and the far southeast are the same. I'm not sure that single family zoning has had the exact same impact on those different parcels. And so I would want to have a discussion around whether the zoning today is in fact exclusionary. I would want to have a discussion about how the impact of a resolution that impacts all single family zone parcels equally would be, essentially how that would impact different communities potentially differently. And so I think my starting point is, yes, the footnotes will be there, but the footnotes are part of the fact record. And I think before anything is passed, the commission does need to make sure that it's comfortable that the fact record is factual. So to the kind of the content of light touch or gentle density, um, any kind of areas of support where folks are saying there's something that I'm seeing here that I really like, and I want to make sure that that remains as this goes forward. Anything that there's opposition to, And then, another layer to either of those, so I'll put it in the middle, is any friendly amendments that folks might want to propose that would either make something more precise, make something cleaner, address any kind of concerns about fact. Howard, I'll start with you, go to Krishna, and I'm keeping an eye on the audience for hands up as well.
Thank you. So I have the same major concern that I had last month, which is this by right uh, aspect of the resolution. I'm not a lawyer, so I had to look up what does by right mean. By right means that a proposal for an infill project would necessarily have to be approved by relevant government bodies as long as it was consistent with current zoning and building codes. So there is not an opportunity to look at the specific context, location, and content of the project and its impact on, let's say, traffic or parking or environment or utility use or greater demand on fire and police. And given how varied the neighborhoods in this city are, and you've alluded to that, Matt, I don't think you can just say uniformly it should just be approved. That any proposal that meets minimal requirements should be approved. And that's sort of government by default. And related to that is the line that says there should be a time limit on how long any government agency has to look at this. So what, if you reach 45 days or whatever the limit is, if the agency hasn't looked at it, it just gets approved. Again, that's government by default, and I don't think that's serving the citizens well. I know the concerns I'm raising here are the kind of concerns that so-called NIMBYs raise, but in some cases, concerns about traffic and environmental impacts and so forth are legitimate. And I think many residents of DC will feel that way. So I think the by right aspect of this resolution is core to it. And it's not a matter of just altering the text here and there. It's a core concept. And so that's why I just can't support this. So I'll stop there.
Nope, I think those are important. Those were concerns that you raised last time. Other folks that I've spoken with who have said, look, if you do buy right, there's no opportunity to negotiate any kind of community benefit, such as affordable housing. And so, yep, you're right. Krishna. You are still on mute.
Yep, sorry about that. I have some noise in the background here, so I'm trying to save you all from it. I voted to go forward on the resolution last time, just as full disclosure here, so everyone can remember that. I think the reason I did that was, I felt that Commissioner Barrow had been as receptive as he could be to a lot of the concerns that were raised. He had been working very hard to come up with various drafts, and at some point you just have to stop making the drafts and move it up. And that was my point of view. Since then, the only thing I think that has changed in my viewpoint is I think he actually sort of raises a very, very interesting question for us, which we haven't really addressed before, and that's why I just wanted to bring it up. Adding I viewed what he was doing as directionally correct, that we need to create more single family housing, more row houses in DC as a whole. But in reality, that might be a slight negative for our communities because that's lowering the development value of the parcels that we have. And we're starting to see that the parcels that we have are not moving right now. There's technical and market reasons why they're not moving, but I think there are other just greater demographic concerns that people don't want to necessarily move here. And I think that I would just flag that as a potential issue. We make the rest of the DC more attractive for the townhouses and row houses. We're going to start losing population to those areas. And it's something that we just have to be concerned about at a very hyper local level.
Got it. So if I can maybe make sure I'm understanding. So part of what I think I'm hearing from you is that ANC 1B in particular, the U Street corridor, for a variety of reasons, is potentially becoming less attractive to folks who are looking for housing stock. Part of that could be that there are other developments that are opening up. From an apartment perspective, there's a lot of brand new high amenity stuff in the Wharf, in Buzzard
Yeah.
Point, and in Navy Yard. And so part of what you're saying is, gosh, there's a drain from U Street right now to other areas. You then posit that there could be a drain from a townhouse perspective as people say, gosh, this is, all these other options are opening up, and this is a place that I want to move out of.
Yeah. And you have brought up this point in terms of the commercial and retail areas, that how are we going to compete for the next 20 years with a Wharf, with a Union Market? They have brand new buildings. They have modern facilities. You try to put that same facilities into a building off of U Street, it's going to cost you 4 times as much because you're dealing with a very different, older infrastructure, and we're going to have real problems with that. I think you could also I'm going a step beyond here and saying that may be a problem in the residential side. What are the attributes that make people want to move here? And certainly it's something I think we just need to be thinking about as we talk about this resolution, which is why I'm bringing it up.
Okay. The flip side of that argument could be, right? Look, it costs $1 million to $1.5 million to buy a townhouse uh, in kind of the U Street corridor, and you're creating an opportunity for me to buy a new townhouse, single family residence inside the District of Columbia for half that, $750,000. You're probably not going to build a $750,000 townhouse in the far northwest. The land acquisition expense would prohibit that. But in other parts of the city, you might find that you're creating lower cost housing for folks to move into. We could split the hair further and say $750,000 for a townhouse still may not approach affordable. And so I think there's also that conversation about, what is affordable. And I think there is definitely a philosophy of, if we build more, we create more capacity, and the prices will go down and be more, people will be able to access it better. And I'm kind of throwing out the counter to that, but you're welcome to counter that.
No, no. I mean, I'm just, this is where I'm throwing it out to the committee just to really think about in terms of how this resolution works in terms of us, because that's really one of the key questions.
Yep. Other thoughts, Tanya? And then we'll go to the audience.
I mean, I'm exactly where Howard is at. We might as well be twinning today, because this is I support his remarks 100%.
Okay. Great. All right, great. Thank you. Any comments or from the audience on the topic of, this is kind of the topic of the concept of general density. I've got one hand up. Jerry Johnson, allowed to talk. Jerry Johnson, once you mute yourself, you should be able to speak.
Hi, Matt. Can you hear me?
I can, loud and clear.
Okay. Short comments. The District of Columbia should be adding new housing stock. I totally agree with that, irrespective of whether or not you go forward with the resolution. But I also want to echo Krishna Kumar's comments that our neighborhood has become less attractive to young families. And we've seen a significant exodus of young families from the neighborhood. We as a city need to acknowledge, we've lost 10% of school-age kids, actually not school age, but I think all children under 18 since 2020. We need to be cognizant of that with respect to all economic development ideas. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you, Jerry. Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that I grapple with is how do you create and sustain community? And I know that there are certain organizations that have done surveys that say people prefer density over community by 4 to 1. So I'll be careful about like what I mean by community, but community means to me a really great network of residential of diverse residents, a network of retail and restaurants and schools and services and support, and that people live in a place that they want to live and feel like they've got, opportunities for growth and opportunities for enrichment. And that's hard, right? I think it's very difficult to create community. And so I think that's one of the things that I'm hearing as you're talking about this is the importance of creating and sustaining community, and how do you do that as you're developing and creating home ownership opportunities and affordable housing opportunities. And you can do all of it. It takes a fair amount of balance. Um, so I guess that's one thought is that, there's this balance that we need to be also aware of, and making sure that anytime we're making trade-offs, and we're always making trade-offs, we've got that in mind. The the other thing I will say, Jerry, anything you want to comment on what I just said? Otherwise, I will move you back to the audience.
Nope, no, I agree.
Um, the other thing I will say, and this is one of the things that I am worried about, and it's not necessarily right. So I'm going to kind of put it out there. Hi, Karen, welcome. Um, one of the things that I worry about is that if I think about those three different areas of the city where we've got single family housing, and we've got the far northwest, we've got the far northeast, and we've got the far southeast. If you think about the real estate costs of those areas, um, you can buy. I've used this example a couple of times this week as I've been kind of thinking through it and talking with folks. You can buy like a 4,000 square foot parcel of land in the far northeast for like 800, $900,000. You can buy 4,000 square feet of space in the far northwest for like $3 to $5 million. Um, and if you have the ability to tear down the existing house and subdivide that into three townhouses, and develop, it makes me wonder which part of the city is going to be impacted the most. And if I was to put myself in the developer's chair, I think I would be looking at an eight to $900,000 parcel that I can subdivide into three. The construction costs are largely the same, although you may go for a different level of finishes in one neighborhood versus the other. But I'm probably more likely to tear down single family housing in the Northeast and the Southeast under this type of ruling. And I'm probably less likely to touch much of what's going on in Northwest. And so I worry about, I guess I'll call it unintended consequences. Um, so it's on my mind. Again, it's not right. I'm not a developer. I haven't run any kind of models, but it's just one of my thoughts as you think about advancing any kind of piece of policy. What is it that you're specifically trying to do, and what are some of the things that are maybe likely to happen under the same policy, unintended. So maybe that's just amusing. I don't mean musing as in funny. I mean musing as in a thought. Other comments, thoughts on the gentle density principle, and then I think we're going to shift our thoughts over to and to the conversation about focus on policy that doesn't directly impact ANC 1B. Go ahead, Ian.
Yeah, no, I want to do something slightly boring, I suppose, which is to suggest that many of us are grappling with a compromise, which is, I think many of us really value community, but appreciate that density plays a role in a city and should have a role in the city's development. Sorry for the noise. Um, when this proposal was originally um, tabled, I was quite enthusiastic because I was thinking of this development. There are a couple of them where you take a lot and then you slice it very thinly, and that means that you can quite well relatively cheaply create family housing on a lot. And I think that's what's needed, and I think it's good for families, and I think it's good for the city, and I think it builds community and so on. And but what sort of got my back up about this proposal is the by right six small apartment building and so on, which basically changes and I think perhaps obstructs, or at least it doesn't make it any easier to build community if you go from a house to suddenly have an apartment building and so on. So I think if you were to ask me, well, are you going to stand in the way of progress? Well, progress for it's an awkward word, but because I don't want to just send the message. I don't think we should send the message that we're not open to density,
Correct.
but we need to balance that a bit. And so if the proposal is okay, well, let's look at methodologies for easy upgrading of vacant lots or something to row houses. I don't think we should stand in the way. I wouldn't want to stand in the way of that. Apart from that, I want to support Howard's points completely. I think he made an eloquent case for both the conflict of interest and the other points. Thank you.
Yeah. Look, I'm not hearing from this group a anti-development sentiment, right? And I think that all of us are pretty pragmatic where you say the population of DC is going to continue to grow and the district is going to have to continue to grapple with how to add density. And I've had long conversations with Commissioner Barrio about this particular proposal. And one of the things that I've said to him is this is not the only way to add density. And both of us are 100% aligned on that, right? There's big parcels in ANC 1B that are zoned mixed use 10, where you can build 10 stories of apartment buildings or condominiums without any further zoning requirements. Like it's done, it's ready to go. But to what Krishna said, the economic conditions today are not favorable to development, and so that development is not happening. What I hear this group grappling with is if you're going to do something like this that has the potential to have a really positive impact, how do you make sure it does have a positive impact and not a detrimental one? And so what I'm hearing Howard say is not throw this whole thing out. What I'm hearing Howard say is by right may lead to some unintended consequences where some stuff gets done without actually a thorough review. Um, and frankly, if you look at what Commissioner Barrio has written into his resolution, he has said that this would happen, should happen gradually over time. And even I think had talked about 1,000 units a year, which is frankly across the whole of the district, not that many units. And so I think what we're all talking about is or are a group of refinements that we're saying, uh, gosh, maybe we don't maybe we don't just do by right. Maybe there is a review process that takes into account X, Y, and Z. Maybe, Ian, I've heard you say this a couple of times, and I want to be candid. I'm sharing this kind of as trying to kind of mirror it back as opposed to saying this is what I think. And I want people to say, no, that's not what I said. But Ian, I've heard you say, look, I'm very enthusiastic about taking a parcel of land and turning it into 4 townhouses. I'm not enthusiastic about taking a parcel of land and turning it into 32 studio apartments. There's a parcel of land in Ledroit Park that this community looked at and said, ugh, zoning is getting in the way from turning this into more density, right? It could easily accommodate 4 townhouses or like 6 to 8 condos, and it can't move because the zoning doesn't allow for it. And so, but I think people are also saying don't tear down the historic house next to me to build a 6-unit condo building. But they are saying this particular case is ideal for redevelopment and more density in this community. We'd welcome it. And so I think what we're struggling with is how do you write something? How do you put pen to paper on something where people come away and say, yeah, that's the outcome that we're really all championing. And what it means is you got to get more precise about certain things. And you do have to put up some guardrails in certain spots, and you have to take certain guardrails down in other spots. And I think that's what we're wrestling with. Howard, go ahead.
Yeah, the by right component is in the majority of the therefore statements. It is core to this resolution.
It is.
I don't think it's a matter of just making some friendly edits. I think it needs to go back to the drawing board. And that's not our job, unless somebody here wants to take that on. I don't. But, maybe Commissioner Barrio will want to do that. But I think this, I don't think friendly edits is enough to address the issues that we've been raising. And it's, as I said, not our job to rewrite it.
Let me try this. Chris Otten's got his hand up, and while I say this, I'm going to promote him to talk. Let me say this. I am going to sit down with Commissioner Barrio after our meeting. I don't remember who said this. It was after we talked about 1617, and it might have been Patrick Nelson who said, it's one thing to pass a resolution, it's another thing to do the hard work. Yeah. We got some work to do. What I am looking for from this group is thoughts that are other than my own to be able to share back with Commissioner Barrio to say a group of people that I think are very thoughtful and experienced and representative of the community have said, these are things that worry us. I'm very happy to have a conversation with him about the concerns about by right. And he may say, I'm not comfortable taking those out, right? That would, but I want to be able to say clearly, there are concerns about the by right, and here are those concerns. There are people in the zoning committee who have raised concerns about by right. They deal with that all the time. So again, my goal is not to take the easy path. My goal is to say, let's get some good feedback here, and then I will do the work of sitting down with Commissioner Barrio between the end of our meeting tonight and January. It won't be January 8th. It's got to be a week before that.
I'll just note that the by right component is core to the AEI proposal as well. And so, if there's not a flexibility there, then that raises further questions about the conflict of interest.
I would be lying, Howard, if I hadn't gone on to Wikipedia and read all the names of the Board of Trustees of AEI.
And AEI is a respectable organization. I don't have a problem with it.
It is.
But they can do their job and the ANC can do its job.
It is, and we do need to, 100%. Chris had his hand up. Chris, go ahead. While you're unmuting yourself, Chris, Ed Hanlon's also has his hand raised. So Ed, I'll promote you and you'll go
Is that
after Chris. We can hear you.
Can
now,
you guys
Chris.
hear me?
We can.
Hello?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Do you want me to speak first? This is Ed. Or do you
Okay.
want
No. Chris had his hand up first, Ed. So if you don't mind,
yeah, that's fine.
unmuting yourself, and then
I
when
want to
he's
hear
done, we'll
Chris.
go. Yeah.
Sorry, my phone, somebody called me right when you unmuted me. So I'm intrigued by one very particular thing. Commissioner Barlow has now brought this to at least 2 committee meetings that I've witnessed. I think he's brought it to 3 committee meetings. And despite the voluminous conversations, concerns, issues raised, this resolution hasn't changed, right? Much, if at all. So I just don't know the value of Commissioner Fay of continuing the conversation. I think this is with him specifically, because I feel like it's pretty clear he doesn't care about the numerous concerns that have been raised over 3 committee meetings to change anything, including again, keeping footnotes to data provided by RealPage, which is being sued by the city for helping the real estate interest price fix all of this new housing that he wants to see built by right. I guess, I'm sort of like stunned by that, like that nothing is fundamentally changed despite 3 committee meetings. And I think this is kind of why I would like a vote, like an actual like committee vote on like, here are the major problems. We are voting that this is not this is not ready for prime time because of these issues. The buy right issue is real. Like, I think to your point, Commissioner Fay, like, we know where this is going to dramatically begin to kick off, and that is where the land is cheaper. And so we're going to see wards 5, 7, and 8 get torn down by right and rebuilt. And in the place, unironically, of family-sized housing that exists now in family homes will be apartment buildings with studios, because that's what the market wants to build by right. They want to build unaffordable studios. So that's why, families can't actually happen and grow in this city. So all the new stuff that's been built, and there's a percentage number, I think it's 92% of the units that have been built over the last 10 years are studios and 1-bedrooms. So that the buy right market tendency is to do that. And so we're going to see that with these apartment buildings. Now, I spent 20 minutes myself talking to Commissioner Baraloo on a Zoom call, one-on-one, and we talked through this. And, it became pretty clear that the idea of guardrails, idea of strings attached, like to get to the whole sentiment, which, the sentiment of the resolution, I think everybody couldn't disagree with. More affordable family-sized housing. But when you take all the strings off, you disallow an ANC conversation and a BZA review. Remember, all of this can still happen with BZA review. Like, it's not illegal. That's part of the misnomer here. You can do it. You walk up, like I've mentioned this before, just walk up Ontario Road. You'll see it. Many of these row homes have been turned into studio apartments, 5 or 6 apartments per row home that are all studios or 1-bedrooms. And they had to go to the BZA. And there was a discussion around it, and it was allowed. But at least there was an open discussion about it. This would be, just, one day you'll be looking across the street at a home. Next day, you'll see it torn down. A year later, there will be a stick apartment building with largely unaffordable studio 1-bedrooms in it. And it won't actually get to the sentiment of the resolution, which is what everybody, I think, agrees with. So it's just weird. It's like, here's this resolution, here's this idea, here's the intent. But the solution is, let's just make everything by right and let the market suss it out. It just isn't going to work. And I guess, yeah, sure, have another conversation, but like, he's pushing this through. Commissioner Baraloo is going to push this through no matter what. I think he's counting votes, I guess, but I just don't understand how the other commissioners don't see the reality that if you just let things go and let the market decide, the market will continue to build what it has been building, which is studio 1-bedrooms, and they're not affordable. So, and they're not going to target Northwest. So the commission, I guess, could, if they really wanted to grapple with this, target Northwest, put that specifically in this resolution, not a buy right across the whole city. And there are mechanisms in the comp plan that can be incorporated where this unfolds in an organic way, that it's accompanied with planning. And there's a map called the generalized policy map, whereby planning areas can be determined where this might unfold. And therefore, there's a actual plan for it. There's some guidance around utilities, infrastructure, schools, all of this sort of thing. So it's not just willy-nilly. how the market wants to unfold and blindside us. So I don't know. To me, it just seems like he's not listening. He doesn't seem to get it. I don't know if the other commissioners who may vote yes on this get it, but there's work to be done there, and I just don't know how to help you guys sort of get it on the table.
Great. Chris, thank you. Stay on, just mute yourself, but stay on because Krishna's got a question for you. Ed, we're going to go to you next, though. Ed, can you hear us?
Can you hear me okay?
Now we can, yes.
Thank you. Thank you for taking my call. I'm wondering, could you put Resolution 25 up on the screen for a moment? I have a couple of questions about it. I'd like to briefly go through. And while you're doing that, I would only comment about the conflict of interest because I don't know the facts. But I would remind everyone it's not an actual conflict of interest that's at issue. It's also the appearance of a conflict of interest, which is just as important for the public to have faith in the decisions that are made. This is resolution. This is version 5, I guess.
It is.
My very first,
This is the red line. Do you want me to get on any particular part of it?
yeah, at the very top.
Great.
Thank you. I'm really confused. It says DC has an acute housing shortage with a 2022 study pegging the shortfall at 116,000 homes. My questions is, has this committee of the commission looked at the study? Is the study based on 2010 census data or 2020 census data? Is it based on 2015 survey data? You know, when I look at 116,000 homes at a pop of about 2.2 people per household, what you're saying is we're looking at 250,000 more people. The OP estimated that the population of DC would be about 725,000. It made that estimate in 2019 for 2020. In fact, the pop of DC came in at 689, about 35,000 lower. OP was estimating by 2045 there'd be about 190,000 more people living in DC than the Council of Governments is estimating after it adjusted for the 2020 census data. So I would say to the commission, where is this 2020 study coming from? What is it based on? This number of 116,000, I would suggest, is impossible. Going down at the other whereas clauses, because you as a committee, I guess, are certifying that these are facts. The whereas exclusionary zoning perpetuates racial and economic segregation in district by walling off wealthy neighborhoods. My understanding of this proposal is it's going to have an outsized impact on Northeast, an outsized impact on wards 7 and 8. We're not just talking about upper Northwest. We're talking about wards 7 and 8, which have a very high proportion of Black family, single family homes. And this particular paragraph doesn't make much sense to me when you're looking at the fact that it's going to affect Northeast and Southeast. I wanted to ask on the second page, it says, whereas a recent poll found districts residents want to end exclusionary zoning. First, that's a Greater Washington poll. Am I right about that? Second, was it a scientific poll? Third, how was the poll conducted? Fourth, what questions were asked? 5, was it a push poll? It just seems odd to me to cite a poll without knowing its scientific basis or the questions or its reliability or its error factor. The next paragraph is, whereas density can be introduced in a gradual manner. I guess as a lawyer, I appreciate that language, but what the heck does in a gradual manner mean when you're talking about fundamental changes to housing policy? And when we say a gradual manner, are we just saying that to make people feel more comfortable with a major land use change? The next paragraph research shows the price of 4-unit infill conversions for district would be approximately 33% less than existing structures. Is that 33% less than the building, 33% less than each unit in the building? And again, where does this information come from? Because I mean, how reliable is this information? In the next paragraph, there is extensive evidence that new housing lowers rent. Well, I don't know. There's a lot of conflicting evidence about whether new housing lowers rents. What kind of housing are we talking about? We're talking about a segmented housing market. And I don't know. I don't see that evidence, at least in Ward 1 and Ward 2 or Ward 3, that that's true. In the next paragraph, where did the estimate come from that legalizing by right infill conversions across the city, in all wards of the city, will result in 1,000 more families starter homes per year? I have no idea where it came from, and I would agree, Matt, that 1,000 is pretty much a drop in the bucket, and I don't even know if there's any real evidence that that's true. So I wanted to point out the whereas provisions that are here, because the whereas are stated as if they're facts. They're stated as if you've investigated these facts, and that you're certifying that these facts are in fact true, and they just aren't. And the most prominent one that isn't is in the very first paragraph of the resolution. There's no way there's a shortfall of 116,000 homes, and you ought to pull the data. So those are my comments, and I want to thank you for giving me the time.
Ed, thank you, and very thoughtful observations. I don't know if you were on the call. I hope you were earlier. I had said that if the commission were to pass this resolution, they would be certifying that these whereas clauses do represent the facts that frame the issue. And so I appreciate your calling them out as eloquently and precisely as you did. And I think to kind of my general comment earlier of having broader feedback to be able to kind of go back and kind of ask appropriate questions. I will be taking this and framing those as questions that need to be considered. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Krishna, you had a question for Chris. So let me stop sharing so we can get back and go ahead. Oh, Chris, you may have hopped off here. So when we promote him back. Oh, he actually dropped. Sorry about that.
Yeah, that's not a problem.
Okay. All right. So let's do this. I feel like I've got the perspective of this committee. The zoning group did not review this document in December. They did meet in October. No, sorry, in November. They codified their questions and comments, and so I've got most of those as well. What I'm going to do is organize all of the comments from both of the committees and the questions that were raised, and I'm going to package those to sit down with Commissioner Barrio to talk with him about the questions that have been raised. So that way we can have a conversation about what he is comfortable changing, what he may not be comfortable changing, and then I will be communicating again the joint kind of feedback from both groups to the broader commissioners so that they have hopefully the benefit of the thinking and the discussions that this group has had as they think about what direction they want to take as this resolution comes forward again. I'm going to propose, Karen, I do see your hand, and I'm going to go to you next. I am going to propose that the committee, which voted on version 4, votes again tonight on version 5. And then that will also give us the vote of this committee as kind of, and I think Krishna nailed it, right? Which is that you think about an ABCA protest, it first goes to the committee makes a recommendation. The recommendation is what is forwarded to the commission for their consideration, and the commission can make its own decision. But I think it's important that the position of the committee is forwarded along. Howard, I suspect that's what you were going to suggest, which is why your hand came down. Okay. So let's go to Karen for her comments. I see that Debbie Hanrahan's hand is up. I'm going to promote her as well. Debbie, you're going to go after Karen. So Karen, go ahead.
Actually, I didn't. I was just trying to get a point of clarification. The ZPD committee, we had to turn in our information that we had on the light distancing, and I know that I shared probably a considerable amount of changes that I think would be effective for the where's clauses. And I don't know, I was expecting, they were shared with Commissioner Barrio, but I was under the expectations that they were shared with you. And this was for last month. And you said it, the meeting wasn't, that we didn't discuss this information, but we did in November. We did.
In November, yep.
Yes, and I was like, okay, did I miss it? I thought you said it was done in October.
Karen, I am trying to keep my head on straight with this one. So yeah,
Yeah,
and Karen, I do have your whereas clauses as a part
yes.
of the ZPD feedback that was packaged and shared. And I know that that feedback was also shared directly with Commissioner Barrio in advance of him drafting the final version 5.
But and the reason, one of the things, when I did share that, I made it clear that I wanted it to be shared with this economic development committee, because I don't want to be doing the same identical thing. Because the thoughts I shared here in this committee, when we had for our last meeting, I made sure that I consolidated my thoughts so that you can see that. And I don't, and I know I came in a little late, and you guys were in a very heavy discussion, and I don't know if you had an opportunity to share the thoughts that were shared, or were you open to doing that, or was that not even going to come into to play tonight?
We decided, Karen, from a process perspective, we decided that we were going to keep our conversations at the top level, and that we were not going to vote on or talk about specific edits. I think Ed probably took us the deepest of anyone tonight, raising kind of specific questions about specific clauses. My thinking is that I would like to do kind of an up-down vote on version 5, because Commissioner Barrio has not incorporated any of your additional language into his version
No, I
5.
didn't see that in
Yeah.
that, and not in the one that you gave to us the other day. I didn't see that. So I was, that's the reason why when I saw the share that was made by Ed, and I was like, okay, that's interesting, because I know that we do some due diligence, and I try my best, and I did some, and I was like, okay, are we not even taking in consideration anything that anybody is saying? But again, that's my idea. And so when I saw this share from Ed, I said, well, maybe I missed something. So I appreciate you clarifying exactly what's going on, and I do think that that we do take in consideration the ideas. I'm praying that that's a way in which we're going to work as a committee, that we take in consideration the ideas that the community has shared in order to help shape these resolutions that everyone is coming up with in the ANC. But thank you so much.
Yeah, no, and thank you for
That was it.
okay, and thank you for submitting your comments. I'm going to go to Debbie, and then I'm going to quickly lay out next steps, and then I'm hoping to let folks go. Debbie, go ahead. Debbie, we can't hear you yet. Go ahead, Howard.
Oh,
Oh,
one,
wait, there's Debbie. There's Debbie.
okay. One thing that comes through very loud and clear to me after many years of working on projects to increase the housing stock in the city for people of moderate and modest means is that this proposal is playing on the the goodwill and wishes of everybody in this room to do what's good for the city. everybody wants to deal with the housing crisis. They want to do what's best for the city. And they are playing on this sentiment, on this wish to handle this problem. But the real motive here is to have the by right ability to do whatever the hell the real estate interests want to do. We will not get more affordable housing. We will get more expensive housing. We will lose the family housing that we have. It will have the exact opposite effects. Look, one project after another, which has come in with all kinds of um, dream scenarios for neighborhoods. I have seen it crash and burn time and time again. The original premise for the project, the original vision of the project, which is sold to get the thing done, long disappears, and the end product does not bear any resemblance to the early promises. We will not get anything out of this except lose our control over getting maybe some housing. But by the way, why do people think that new construction will be affordable? It will be very expensive. New construction raises the cost of all housing, the current stock, the cost of living, everything. So it's not just something that the market can handle and have a good result. And especially now, I worked on McMillan. Do you know what McMillan, the 25 acres that the city spent $100 million on? It's a big giant hole with mosquitoes in it. And I mean, it's housing is very, very difficult. And to have this citywide by right rule is not the answer. Please, this is just nonsense. And this is something that the real estate industry dreams about having, and they're trying to get it by playing to everybody's good wishes and hopes for the city. And that it's the most cynical kind of thing, and we should not fall for it, because they're not interested in the best of what's right for the city. They're interested in making a profit. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you, Debbie. Tanya, I think Debbie's closing comment was a little bit of what I was saying in my email earlier when we were exchanging emails of right. Our job is to try to represent the needs of the community, and I think that's the wrestle that we're having, and we'll continue to have, and we've got some work ahead of us. Let's do this. I'm going to go to Howard, and then we're going to go to our vote, and then we're going to talk about next steps.
Yeah. Matt, I just wanted to address the other point that I thought you were asking us to discuss, which is it appropriate for this ANC to look at issues that actually don't have much to do with our ANC directly, but have to do with other parts of the city? And I think that much of the discussion tonight has exposed some reasons why we should not be pursuing resolutions that more directly affect other parts of the city. So there was the discussion about how the policy in this resolution, if it were implemented, would affect development in other quadrants, and how that then would affect the value and sales of properties here in U Street. That all kind of made sense, but we don't really know for sure that's how it would work out. Because I don't believe any of us are really experts on land use and development to the degree that would be needed. So we just don't have the expertise. And then I apologize if some of you do. And then Ed Hanlon, who is a man after my own heart, pointed very specifically to areas, to the whereas statements that were not well supported or not clearly stated, or probably just plain wrong. And those are all statements concerning the city as a whole. And you know, to a certain extent, it shouldn't be our job or the ANC's job to nail down every single piece of evidence for every single whereas statement. It should be clear in the resolution itself. It should be clear from the footnoted literature, but it's not. And so it's just beyond the scope of the abilities of any one ANC. And I know that we're all very knowledgeable and smart, but even then, I think it's beyond our capacity. So.
Great. I mean, Howard, I have been on the receiving end of your question. Is that in fact a fact? And I have edited things because I do believe they have to be very factual and accurate. So thank you. Any other comments, final comments on the scope discussion about this being kind of um, part of our purview? Okay, Howard's, I think, comments stand. I'm going to call a vote. Would you like me to put the resolution version 5 back up, or do you feel at this point that we have reviewed version 5 sufficiently on the screen that we can take a vote on it without another review?
Please, let's take the vote.
Okay. Uh, let's do this. Version 5, which is the document that we have reviewed 3 times, 2 or 3 times tonight, put it up on the screen. We have read substantive elements of it, if not all of it. I'm going to move to vote on version 5 um, so that the committee can communicate its position on that draft text. Is there a second?
I second.
All in favor of version 5 as written today, please raise your hands. Mr. Kumar is consistent. 1 vote in favor. All opposed, please raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4. Frank, do you want to raise a virtual hand? Okay, 4, and then 2 abstaining. So it's 5. Okay, so the vote fails 5 to 1 to 0, and I will communicate that vote to the commission. Here's what I am proposing as next steps. And when I say proposing, I mean I want people's feedback. I am proposing that I am going to take, I mean, this is going to be, can I say this? This is going to be such a pain. I'm going to take all of our comments from tonight. I'm going to go back, review the video. I'm going to take all the comments and feedback from tonight. I'm going to take Mr. Hanlon's questions that were very specific and targeted. I'm going to take Ms. Gall's proposed language that she submitted through the ZPD group, and I'm going to package all of that up. Yeah, I'm going to package all of that up, and I'm going to present that to Commissioner Hanran. Sorry, Hanran, Commissioner Barrio. I am going to invite a conversation with him to review that information, to discuss it. I'm going to put particular emphasis on a strong desire to have accurate, fact-checked whereas clauses. And I'm going to ask him to address some of not some of the language that we've identified in the therefore clauses that seem to be problematic, and that could be leading us down the wrong path. I will send a draft of that information over to this group, and I would love your feedback, edit, suggestion, input, so that I am getting it right. Once I have met with Commissioner Barrio, which I'm hoping to do very quickly, I will be sending that same information to the commission members so that the commission also has the feedback of this group and the ZPD group for their consideration, and that they can ask their own questions of Commissioner Barrio either prior to the meeting or at the meeting itself. And I will keep this group updated as to how those conversations go, what edits are made, what edits are not made, and make sure that you guys are in the loop. And I'm grateful for all of the candor and the thoughtfulness and the feedback that you've all shared here. But also to Karen's point, was it October? Was it November? Was it November? It was all of those. So thank you for a lot of time and attention on this. Krishna has his hand up. I'm going to go to you before we close.
Yeah, just a quick question. I think Frank had proposed a new member of the committee, and I think he's still in the attendee list. I don't know if you want to deal with that right now.
Can't deal with it now. So the process for any member who would like to be a part of the committee, the committee member needs to apply online. I've provided the link for new member application
Okay.
to Mr. Chauvin for him to share directly with anyone who is interested. They will apply. I have as a standard that I will interview each person who is looking to join. My only purpose of interviewing somebody is to learn a little bit more about where do they live? What has their involvement been? What is their background? What perspective do they bring to the conflict of interest question? No conflicts of interest being identified. We then bring them onto the committee and they get introduced.
Okay.
So
He's sat through 2 of our meetings so far, everyone. So he's willing to deal
he's
with pain
committed. He's committed.
or crazy.
Or crazy. Or yeah. So yeah, no, but please apply. And if anybody wants to email me directly for the link, it's my email address is 1bo1 at anc.dc.gov. And I will send it over to you right away. The last thing I will say, think if there's any new business that you want to put on the table, but last thing I want to say is thank you. This is my first year in my 2-year term as a commissioner. I lobbied fairly aggressively to become the chair of economic development. The reason I lobbied, I actually had nothing to do with this group, but if I had known, I would have lobbied because of this group. I lobbied because I feel very passionately about the East Street Corridor. I believe passionately in that ecosystem I talked about a little bit earlier, and all of the things that I think we can be doing as elected and volunteer members of this community to make an impact. And I have been so grateful and so impressed with just the quality of this group and your knowledge and your commitment and your willingness to dig in and go the distance to get to good answers. And I'm grateful for that. I am planning to reapply as the chair of the Economic Development Committee for next year. And if anyone has concerns, you should definitely email Miguel. But at the same time, I'm looking forward to working with everybody for another year. And I hope that all of you will want to come back again next year because this has been just a fantastic group. And I think we've covered a lot of ground. I'm going to use part of our time in January to do something that I know Ms. Gall likes, which is a review of the things that we set out to do at the start of the year, what we covered, and we'll spend some time talking about what our priorities are as we go into 2026.
Do we need to reapply?
That is a good question. I will look into that, and I will let you know. But I would,
If we do, I'm not coming.
Karen is reading people's mind on the.
Yeah, let me check. I know as the chair, I have to.
You better stop looking
Yeah.
to get forced in the mouth.
That's exactly right.
We,
No, I
we,
think
we have not reapplied, Matt,
Good.
in previous
Good.
years for that.
Never.
Just
Good.
sort of when the commission turnover occurs, I think we act for a reapplication. We have done
Good.
a reapplication in the background.
We'll go for that. And I think the reason why the commissioners have to reapply to their positions is that it allows for some fluidity 1 year to the next as people want to move into different roles and have different experiences.
That's for commissioners only. The committee, we've been standing tall for a long time. We know what we're doing.
Good.
And if you ask me to reapply, then that means I'm getting one of them fake MRIs that people are taking now.
Perfect. Thank you. Any new business before we wrap up tonight? Okay.
I just want to say thank you, Matt, for doing a great job of chairing us and leading us this year. We've had a lot of productive discussions and made a lot of good progress, and you've been key to that. And I appreciate how you let everyone share their views on the committee and in the public. And I don't think anything is left unsaid in our discussions, and that's important. I know it makes for very long meetings, but I think it's worth it in the long run.
Perfect. Thank you, Howard. Happy holidays to everybody. Happy
Merry
New Year.
Christmas.
And I'll see you all in
Holidays.
the new year, adjourning at 8:45 p.m.
Happy holidays, happy Kwanzaa, Merry Christmas, and happy Hanukkah, and all that good stuff.
All
Have a
right.
wonderful one.
Night, everybody.
Bye. Good night.
Good night.